Hello, disturbed listeners. We need your help in a truly terrifying way. A listener survey. Tell us all of your deep, dark secrets. It'll only hurt for a few minutes. You'll find the link below in our show notes. To show you how much we appreciate you, we're giving away 2 $50 gift cards every month. Remember to check out our show notes for the link to the survey. We promise we won't stalk you when we're done.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
Every instinct in my body was screaming at me that something was wrong with this person. Once I got downstairs, I called my husband and told him, as calmly as I could, "You need to come inside right now."
I looked outside and there were a bunch of cop cars and a forensics team in front of the house. They were there for hours, just sitting there.
From Killer Podcasts. True tales of horror, bizarre happenings, unexplainable events. This is Disturbed. Hello, and welcome back to the show. This week we have 4 inexplicable stories that will make you rethink everything. So sit back, listen closely, and dive into the horror. In our first story, an airport encounter leaves one couple a little freaked out, narrated by Maxwell Glick. From Reddit user, Mr. Ellis is a elf.
I know trust your gut gets repeated constantly, but about 6 months ago at Washington Dulles Airport, my body reacted to a stranger with such an intense fear that I still think about it regularly. About 6 months ago, my husband and I, both males in our mid to late 20s, flew from home after vacationing on the West Coast. We took a red-eye because the flight is long and the time difference is weird, and it was just easier that way. When we landed back in DC, it was early in the morning. We were exhausted and kind of delirious in that weird post-overnight flight kind of way. If you know Washington Dulles Airport, then you know the pickup situation can be chaotic. The arrivals pull-up constantly gets backed up, so instead of waiting downstairs, we grabbed our luggage and went upstairs to departures, because pickups are usually way faster there. It was cold outside, but after hours in airports and on a plane, the fresh air felt really nice. We leaned against one of those concrete barriers outside the terminal while we waited for my husband's mom to pick us up. She was driving from Potomac, and traffic was really bad, so we knew we'd be there for a minute, which was fine. We'd just gotten comfortable when a man came over to us. At first, there was absolutely nothing strange about him. He looked like a completely normal late 20s or early 30s kind of tech guy. Clean clothes, fleece vest, AirPods in, and well-groomed. The type of person you wouldn't look twice at. He told my husband he liked his jacket, and my husband thanked him. Then he complimented mine, too. I awkwardly said something like, "Thanks, man, you too." even though his outfit was pretty generic. He smiled and sarcastically replied, "I'm sure you do." It was subtle, but something about the tone felt slightly off to me. We tried to be nice, just making casual conversation with a stranger while waiting for a ride. He asked us where we were headed, and we told him we were staying with family nearby, to which he started talking about family too, except every comment he made had this bitter, self-deprecating edge to it. At one point, he made a comment along the lines of friends and family not mattering anyway. Things took an even darker turn from there. I cannot explain this properly without sounding insane, but the atmosphere shifted so suddenly that I physically felt it. I got chills all over my body. Not anxiety, not nervousness. Actual primal fear. The man's expression changed completely. He was still talking normally, but the way he was looking at us suddenly felt very wrong. The only way I can describe it is that he looked at us like he desired to hurt us. There was an intense anger behind his eyes that absolutely had not been there before. I suddenly noticed that he had no luggage at all, just a backpack, which struck me as odd because he'd mentioned getting off a long flight. Then, somewhere in the conversation, he casually said, "I don't have a home." Every instinct in my body was screaming at me that something was wrong with this person. My husband seemed totally absorbed in the conversation. I kept glancing at him to see if he thought anything was off, but he was just fine. I knew I needed to get away from this guy without escalating anything. I genuinely thought if I acted alarmed or made it obvious I was scared, something bad would happen. So, instead of abruptly saying we were leaving, I quietly walked back inside the airport and down the ramp toward arrivals, leaving my husband outside talking to him. I made up an excuse that I had to go to the bathroom, and he just said, "Oh, the bathroom, huh?" Once I got downstairs, I called my husband and told him, as calmly as I could, "You need to come inside right now. Something is seriously wrong with that guy." While I was on the phone, I could hear the man say, "Oh, is that your friend? Tell him to come back out." My husband wrapped up the conversation politely, saying something like, "Nice meeting you, man." And the guy responded in this cold, almost mocking voice, "Yeah, I'm sure you really mean that." The way he said it made my stomach drop. A minute later, my husband finally came back inside. The second I saw him walk around the corner, I felt relief wash over me. Before I could even explain myself properly, he immediately said, "No, I get it. That felt really fucking scary." That was the moment I knew I wasn't imagining it. We waited inside the rest of the time until my husband's mom arrived. 3 seconds after we got into the car, she started asking how we were, excited to see us after we'd been away for a while. I was relieved to see her too, not just because we hadn't seen her in some time, but because it felt like she had unknowingly pulled us out of something awful. The entire time we were driving out of the airport, I had this horrible adrenaline still running through me. I immediately started trying to explain what had just happened, talking too fast, trying to describe why the interaction had scared me so badly. As we drove out of the airport, we passed the same man sitting alone further down the terminal. He didn't look over at us. He was probably already on to his next victim. But I watched him through the car window until he was completely out of sight. Only then did the fear leave.
Don't run away. Disturbed will return in a moment. Running an online store used to feel like trying to survive with 20 tabs open at all times. Inventory in one place, payments somewhere else, analytics buried in another dashboard entirely. I love the new updates to Shopify. Had I had their all-in-one dashboard when I ran my store in the past, life would have been so much easier. And as a consumer, I love buying from Shopify stores because of Shop Pay. You see that purple button and suddenly checkout takes seconds instead of turning into a whole process. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. You can build a beautiful online store with ready-to-use templates, use AI tools to help with product descriptions and photos, and manage inventory, payments, analytics, and more all in one place. And if you get stuck, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 customer support is always there. See less carts go abandoned and more sales go with Shopify and their Shop Pay button. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/disturbed. Go to shopify.com/disturbed. That's shopify.com/disturbed. Every month, people throw money into wireless bills without even thinking about it. Huge payments for service that honestly doesn't feel any different. That's exactly why I switched to Mint Mobile. I love Mint. I use it for my family of 6 and constantly tell people switching to Mint has been the best decision I've made in the past 10 years. My budget is a lot happier too. I'm easily saving a couple $1,000s a year compared to my old provider. Mint Mobile took what's wrong with wireless and made it right with premium wireless for $15 a month. You still get fast, reliable coverage on the nation's largest 5G network, but without the ridiculous bill attached to it. You can bring your current phone and your number, choose from 3, 6, or 12-month plans, and finally stop dealing with overpriced wireless. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/disturbed. That's mintmobile.com/disturbed. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/disturbed. That's it. There's no catch. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Summer is right around the corner, and when it arrives, I want clothes that breathe, feel light, and still look good without trying too hard. That's why Quince is becoming my entire wardrobe. I love their flow-knit t-shirts, especially on a hot day as summer approaches. They breathe so well it keeps me cool and energized. And once you wear one for a while, you start realizing how uncomfortable other shirts actually are. Quince focuses on high-quality essentials without the luxury markup. Their European linen shirts are lightweight and breathable, their tees are incredibly soft, and even their lightweight cotton sweaters are perfect for cooler summer nights. Everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands because they work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen. And honestly, Quince goes way beyond clothing. Bedding, cookware, furniture, it's the kind of brand you end up recommending constantly. Elevate your summer wardrobe. Go to quince.com/disturbed for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. That's QUINCE.com/disturbed for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/disturbed. Welcome back to Disturbed. In our next story, dogs come to one woman's rescue. Narrated by Tamica Nason. From Reddit user Inevitable Squash 941.
I'm a mom and a wife, and one of my favorite things to do to get away for a little while is go on glorious long hikes in the woods. I wasn't able to do it for over a year because I was pregnant and then I had a newborn. But my son just turned 1, and I've been focusing a lot on getting back to my walks. My husband asked me what I wanted to do for Mother's Day, and I told him what I really wanted to do was go get lost in the woods for a couple of hours. The pun was absolutely not intended. We live in rural Oregon, and while our property is surrounded by farmlands, I have a friend who lives a couple miles up the road whose property meets up with endless acres of BLM land. If you don't know, it's land that belongs to the Bureau of Land Management and is often sold to logging companies. When it's not under contract, it's generally open to the public as long as you leave no trace. There are thousands of acres of dense forest, waterfalls and rivers, wildlife trails, and fire access roads. You can generally navigate between these access roads, but there are definitely places where one could get turned around, especially because there's rarely any service. This specific area, my friend and I both hiked and ridden our horses on for years, so I was confident that the trails I planned to take were safe to take alone. On any given day, I wouldn't have been alone as I would have brought my wonderful dog with me, but unfortunately, she had passed away when my son was 4 months old. I considered taking my friend's dog, but she ended up being locked in the house, and my friend was at work. Besides, I always conceal carry while I'm out, so I wasn't worried. I decided to hike to a well-known lookout area. The hike started out like any other. I took the main fire road down towards the river, crossed, and then took a specific trail that fishtailed up towards a ridge. From there, it was a 2-hour trek that bends, rises, and falls until you get to a clearing. From that clearing, it goes straight up for a long while to the lookout on some giant rocks. The hike is a good 4 hours round trip. I made it to the ridge and was walking along the trail when I heard voices. I didn't want to run into people. I preferred to be alone, so I began preparing myself to politely say hi and continue on my merry way, trying to not engage in conversation like many do. However, that didn't work out like I planned. The voices belonged to 3 men, probably around my age, which is 32, walking very casually on the trail. I did the old, "on your left," and offered a nod while passing, but one of them reached out and stopped me. I mean, he actually put his hand under my elbow and gave me a nudge. I turned around thinking that maybe he stumbled, but he launched into this conversation that I can't remember everything about. He was talking about where they're from and what a beautiful day it was and introducing everyone. All the while, I'm slowly walking away. The other 2 men joined in from time to time, but overall, I had this uneasy feeling about them. I tried a few times to end the conversation and speed ahead, but one of them would always ask a question and expect an answer. Or if I picked up my pace, they picked up theirs as well. I was starting to feel like they were intimidating me. I even went as far as saying the proper goodbye and nice to meet you, but they would just follow right along. The tipping point for me was I started to ask strategic questions and got really offhanded answers. For example, I specifically asked where they were going, and they all sort of glanced at each other. Then one of them said they were going to the waterfall. Now, I knew exactly where that waterfall was, and it wasn't in the general vicinity as us, or where the trail was heading. I kept moving on the trail because there was nowhere else I could escape to with the men still talking to me. This all bubbled up to the moment where the trail went up a steep bank, and you had to climb up a little using rocks and the big root of a tree to continue on. They stopped, and the 3 of them circled and made their way around me so that I was surrounded. They pressed in on me and tried to convince me to come with them to the waterfall. I told them no and decided to use this moment to show them that I was indeed carrying a weapon. Hopefully, that would at least show them that I was capable of protecting myself if needed. I keep my gun at my hip, hidden under my shirt, so I casually lifted the bottom of my shirt and wiped my glasses. I could sense a feel of nervousness wash over them, and one of them was just staring at me intensely. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was able to keep my cool and scrambled up the steep bank first, trying to get ahead of them. As soon as I was at the top, I started running as fast as I could down the trail. I didn't look back. I didn't pause to listen. I didn't even care if I left something behind. I just ran. Luckily for me, there was a deer trail that shot out of the side and eventually wove through a thick bunch of brambles. I turned onto that trail and carefully picked my way through, trying not to leave an obvious sign that I went that way. My plan was to go as far downhill as possible to get to the bottom of the ridge so that I could backtrack my way to the access road. However, that did not happen. I eventually ended up on another trail, but I had no idea which one, and after walking for forever, it just ended. I turned around to walk the other way, but it also disappeared into a deer trail that led to literally nowhere. I felt like my only option was to pick my way back up the ridge to hopefully find the original trail and hopefully avoid the creeps. They should have been farther away by now. The problem was that no matter how much I went back and forth on the little dead-end trail, I could not find the spot where I came down. I could feel panic start to set in. I pulled my phone out, checked to see if I could find service, but unfortunately, there was none. Tears started to fill my eyes. I was beginning to get terrified. To calm myself down, I found a good spot and decided to have the lunch I'd brought with me. I was sitting there trying to eat a tuna fish sandwich, trying not to cry my eyes out, when 2 random dogs came walking up the trail sniffing in the air. They had no collars, but were really gentle and sat with me for a long time while I cried my heart out to them. They were 2 big, white Great Pyrenees, and if I had to guess, belonged to somebody who took good care of them. I absolutely believe with every fiber of my being that God sent these 2 dogs to me. When I was done crying and settled back down, they both stood up and, I kid you not, led me randomly through the woods on a track I would have never taken on my own. We went down random deer trails, over a rock field, and down into a valley that led up to a part of the access road I'd never been to before. They walked with me all the way down to the part where I finally recognized where I was. They even came with me to my friend's house where I called my husband. In the end, we decided to call the non-emergency line and just let them know about the strange behavior of the men I saw in the woods. I gave them as many details as I could remember. The dogs ended up running off soon after I called my husband, and I'm kicking myself for not thinking to record my mishap or at least get a picture of the dogs so I could find the owner and thank them. So if anybody has a pair of guardian dogs that often go missing from your property, just know that they might be helping somebody in need.
A nosy neighbor spots a mysterious occurrence. Narrated by K. Richardson, from Reddit user Mina Sweetgirl.
I'm going to start this story with a little background information you'll need. My husband and I moved into the neighborhood in 2019, so we've been here a few years. Our neighbor's house sits across the street, and from our front window, we can see everything that goes on over there. I work from home, so I'm always there. And let's say I've seen a few interesting things go on. A few months after we moved in, on an ordinary Tuesday, I looked outside and there were a bunch of cop cars and a forensics team in front of the house. They were there for hours, just sitting there. I'm not sure how long exactly because I ended up falling asleep. The talk of the neighborhood was that somebody had died. We never found out how, though. It could have been murder, old age, or natural causes. We don't know. There was never anything written in the newspapers, and we never asked about it. A few months later, a new family moved in. Everything was normal until it wasn't. One day, I remember I was looking out the window, and I saw a man put a woman wrapped up in sheets into the back of his car. She wasn't entirely stiff, but she was either sleeping, dead, or unconscious. Her eyes were closed, and she seemed unresponsive. After that, he went back into the house and came out with 2 black trash bags that seemed to be heavy and full. Then he drove away. I kept looking out the window, but I never saw him return. I asked my husband if I should call the cops and report what I saw, but he said no. I thought the event was so weird, but he was adamant that we shouldn't interfere and that maybe he was just taking her to the hospital and just taking the trash out. The next day, the cops showed up at the house. As soon as I saw the lights, I rushed over to my window to see what was going on. They brought the man outside, and it looked like they were questioning him. They were there for maybe 20 minutes, and then they left. He went back inside, and that was it. The more I thought about it, I realized that I'd never seen that woman before. I got a good look at her face and I knew she wasn't his wife. Who could she be and why was she there? I even tried looking for her on social media, but I couldn't find anything. I should also add, we've never seen her there again. After that, things kind of calmed down. The man across the street seemed to kind of lay low. I saw his car come and go like he was going to work, but that was it. 3 months later, out of the blue, my husband texted me that cops were about to show up at his house. He worked at the police department at the time, and he saw the police dispatch. The man in the house and his wife were getting divorced. His wife we'd seen multiple times before, but not the other lady. Apparently, one thing led to another, and there was a restraining order set in place. But then he violated the order and shown up at the house. It seemed like a very messy divorce. Over the next few weeks, we witnessed the cops showing up a few more times, but we never saw him get arrested. Then they moved out, and the house went up for sale. The house ended up sitting vacant for over a year. There had been some contractor come by and do some things to the house, fix the roof and the siding, put in new windows, etc. The previous neighbors had been renters, so I guess there was some damage done. Then one day, the for sale sign went down. The house was still sitting empty, but a white unmarked van would come by at night, then leave. It's extremely too loud, so I always knew when it showed up and left. That happened for weeks. They would come by for 30 minutes to an hour and then leave. Recently, it started staying there parked overnight. I've seen someone get out of the van multiple times and go into the house. Sometimes he has a bag of fast food or just a white shopping bag. While all of that sounds normal, I have a terrible feeling about it all. I've never seen a moving van or anybody moving furniture in, and the house still looks empty. The windows still have the new installation stickers on them. There's something weird going on with that house. I've joked with my husband that it must be some sort of meth lab, and that I hope it doesn't catch fire or explode. But I really think that it's something more sinister. I think he murdered that girl, and selling the house was a cover-up. And the van driver, he is a part of it all. I'm not sure how yet, but eventually all will reveal itself. All I really know is that I stay on my side of the sidewalk and don't go anywhere near that house. It gives me the creeps.
Don't run away. Disturbed will return in a moment. You ever notice how banks always seem to find a new way to charge you? Monthly fees, overdraft fees, random charges that show up out of nowhere. My big bank has been hitting me with fees multiple times a month. With Chime, I get away from that nonsense. Honestly, that's exactly why I've switched. Chime is changing the way people bank. They offer the most rewarding fee-free banking. This is fee-free banking built for you. They're not like traditional old banks that charge you overdraft and monthly fees. They have thousands of fee-free ATMs. Why pay to get your own money? Built for you, not the 1%. With direct deposit, Chime members can benefit from up to $1,150 in annual rewards, fee-free. You can even get up to $500 of your pay when you need it with MyPay. And Chime is rated 5 stars by USA Today for customer service. Real humans, 24/7. Chime is not just smarter banking. It is the most rewarding way to bank. Join the millions who are already banking fee-free today. Head to chime.com/disturbed. That's chime.com/disturbed. It only takes a few minutes to sign up. Chime is a fintech, not a bank. Banking services for MyPay provided by Chime's bank partners. Optional products and services may have fees or charges. For more information on MyPay, go to chime.com/disclosures.
I'm not giving up. I am selling the building.
The final season of FX's The Bear. The restaurant is flooded.
Everything's either gonna be okay.
No, stop!
Or not.
We are outgunned and we are outmanned, but we have each other.
FX's The Bear, the final season. All episodes now streaming on Disney+.
Welcome back to Disturbed. Finally, Close Encounters on the Third Floor. Narrated by Matthew P Lindquist from Reddit user Snoo Squirrels 4365.
I grew up in a small rural community in the foothills of western North Carolina, and I still live there today. This story began when I, a 62-year-old man, was only 13, just a kid out riding his bike. My neighborhood was your standard housing development of the 80s, and like all good neighborhoods, there was the scary house that no one liked going by. It sat on the edge of the development and had been there longer than any of the other houses. The owners refused to let it get torn down, so it stood there, an old, dilapidated, 3-story Victorian mansion. When I rode my bike past it, my stomach would get tied up in knots with dread. I would hold my breath and pump my legs as fast as I could until I was well past the overgrown, vine-covered structure. Us kids held the belief that if you held your breath past a cemetery or a scary place, then the ghosts couldn't go into your body. Over the years, the mansion was remodeled and turned into a historical location and museum. A Charlotte TV station ran a story about the house for Halloween and listed it as one of the most haunted locations in North Carolina. When I was a senior in high school, we took a tour of the mansion for one of my classes. We found out that it was originally constructed as a 2-story residence for a wealthy, eccentric diamond dealer. Apparently, he was unsatisfied with the lack of impressiveness of the home and literally had workmen saw the house in half, jack up the top floor, and build a second floor in between, turning it into a 3-story home. There are photos of the construction process in the museum. During our tour, we had a psychic medium with us. When we made it to the 3rd floor, she suddenly became physically ill and overwhelmingly sad. She kept repeating herself over and over again, saying, "This room was a place of great sadness. The little girl had been held against her will for many years." There was one particular room up there that still had the locks on the outside of the 2 doors, and the windows all had locks on the outside. We all thought that kind of validated the psychic's account for us. Let's fast forward another 6 years, and now I am deputy for the county sheriff. The mansion constantly had alarm violations, and they were almost always on the 2nd or 3rd floor. Sometimes I would have to respond as many as 5 to 6 times a night. Never, not once have I or any other officer had an actual break-in. The mansion had an extensive collection of vintage and antique dolls that liked to get up and move around. You respond to a call at 10 p.m. and everything is in order as it should be. Go back at 3 a.m. and the dolls are on the floor, removed from locked glass cases, and the case is still locked. There were cold spots where you could see your breath, and the hair on the back of your neck and arms would stand up on hot summer nights. These happenings would literally go on year after year. All of the officers knew that the mansion was haunted. Then, one cold winter night, one of my part-time reserve officers responded to a call there. The officer cleared the scene before I arrived at the mansion and requested a quick meeting at a small country grocery store parking lot. Now, mind you, this officer was part-time, and he was a professional pilot who flew very large cargo jets all of his life. He'd recently become a deputy sheriff because it was a lifelong dream of his, and he helped us out by filling in part-time. When I got to the store, he looked kind of shook up. I asked him what was wrong. He asked, "Have you ever seen anything down at the mansion? I mean, anything odd?" I said, "Well, other than the usual dolls being moved around, cold spots, and unexplainable alarm activation, not really. Why do you ask?" He tried to get out of it, but I insisted he go on. He told me that tonight, When he pulled up to the house and got out of his patrol car and was shining his mag light around, he saw a young girl, probably 12 to 13 years old, standing there staring at him from the 3rd floor. She was holding the drapes open with her right hand. They stood there, staring at each other. After what seemed like forever, she just stepped backwards and the drapes closed. He was very shaken, and after that, he would often avoid answering an alarm call at the mansion if he could. Fast forward again, about 2 years later, and now it's my turn. It was a cold, quiet night, around 2 a.m., an alarm call at the mansion. Motion detected on the 3rd floor, a call I've gotten hundreds of times before. I pulled in and cut on my alley light, which is a very bright side light on the top of my patrol car, which is my usual routine when I respond to an alarm call at the mansion. I started circling the mansion, looking at the bottom floor, making my way up. I very quickly shined my light across the building, looking from door to door and window to window until I reached the 3rd floor. And that's when I froze. There she was, standing in the 2nd window on the 3rd floor. A pretty young girl with very long, wavy hair, wearing an early 1900s-style dress with lace up and down to the right and left of the buttons. Her hair on the right side was draped in front, and the rest was back behind her left shoulder. I could see her right arm holding the curtain back about 12 inches, just looking out at me. It seemed like I sat there and looked at her forever, but in reality, it was probably only a few seconds, and just as quickly as I had seen her, she was gone. She stepped back into the darkness and the curtain swayed from where she had released it. A chill ran up and down my spine. I searched the house because that was what I was supposed to do, but I definitely still had the heebie-jeebies. I found nothing unusual. I cleared that night and never told anyone what I had seen for a very long time. Probably a year or two later, I was working with the same reserve officer from earlier. We pulled up to talk one night and I said, "You know, I never told you, but I saw her, just like you did, standing there looking out the window in her dress with all the ruffles and lace, just staring, and then she was gone." He said, "You know, that place gives me the creeps, and there's just something not right about it." Over the years, other officers saw her looking out the 3rd floor window, never smiling, never waving, just looking, and then she would be gone. I never saw her again. That was the one and only time she chose to reveal herself to me. I retired in 2015, but to this day, the sheriff's office will get alarm calls at the museum with motion detection on the 2nd or 3rd floor.
New episodes of Disturbed drop every Thursday. If you love the show, consider becoming a member to access early and ad-free episodes. There you can also access our exclusive monthly series, A Night by the Campfire, where we share the scariest stories we can find from professional authors. A few episodes have been released here for free, so scroll down and listen. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed. If you have a story you'd like to share, email us at mystory@disturbedpodcast.com or post on our subreddit, r/disturbedpodcast. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing and leaving a review. Disturbed is a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more true crime and paranormal shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Our producer is Sarah Wilgrube, and Declan Roars is our executive producer. Audio engineering by Nathan Corson, Sean Rule Hoffman, and Will Pritz. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Until next time, stay safe out there.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Selling your car should feel like one less thing on your list, not one more. With Carvana, it is. Just go to Carvana.com, enter your license plate or VIN, and get a real offer down to the penny. No back and forth, no surprises, just an experience you can trust. Like your offer? Accept it. Schedule pickup, and we'll come to you with a check in hand. Your car, your timeline, your terms. Visit Carvana.com to sell your car today. Carvana. Delivery fees and terms may apply.
Spotify, it's Jay Shetty. Are you one of those media strategy people? Scrolling through spreadsheets, searching for an audience that pays twice as much attention to your ads than they do on social? Let me introduce you to Fans. And they're here with me on Spotify. Trust me, I know Fans. They don't skip, they stay for hours. They don't move on, they manifest. They're not a demographic group, they're fans.
Spotify advertising. You're among fans.